Madam Mayor.
Good evening, everybody. I'll pass you over to our Managing Director, Mrs Denise McGuckin.
It's wonderful to see everybody in person. It's the first time for a long, long time, so it's wonderful to see you all. As we know, it's annual council, and we've got a formal agenda to go through this evening. And the first item on the agenda is to elect a person to preside at the meeting if the chair or vice chair isn't present. Obviously, we do have our chair and vice chair, so we'll move on to receive any apologies from absent elected members. Do we have any apologies? No. Okay, the next item is to elect the chair of council, ceremonial mayor for the coming municipal year. I have two nominations which have been received. They are Councillor Brenda Lyons and Councillor Amy Prince. Can I have proposers and seconders, please?
I'll second.
I'll propose Councillor Brenda Lyons.
I'll second.
I propose Amy Prince.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We'll now go to a vote. What I'll ask members to do is actually say the surname for the individual, so it'll be Lyons or Prince as we go through the evening. This will set the tone of the evening, because due to current circumstances we will have to do each vote by recorded vote to ensure our members are clear of what their roles are. So if we go, if I go to Councillor Ashton first, Lyons or Prince?
Lyons.
Body?
Prince.
Brash?
Prince.
Brown?
Lyons.
Councillor Cassidy?
Lyons.
Councillor Clayton?
Prince.
Councillor Cook?
Lyons.
Councillor Cowie?
Lyons.
Councillor Cranny?
Lyons.
Councillor Creevy? Prince? Councillor Elliott?
Prince.
Councillor Falconer?
Lyons.
Councillor Feeney?
Prince.
Councillor Fleming?
Lyons.
Councillor Groves?
Lyons.
Councillor Hall?
Prince.
Councillor Hargreaves?
Prince.
Councillor Harrison?
Prince.
Councillor Howson?
Prince.
Councillor Jackson?
Lyons.
Councillor Lindridge?
Lyons.
Councillor Little?
Lyons.
Councillor Brenda Lyons? Councillor Denny Lyons?
Lyons.
Councillor Moore?
Lyons.
Councillor Nicholson? Sorry, sir, I forgot your first name. I do apologise. Dave?
Lyons.
And Veronica Nicholson?
Lyons.
Councillor Picton?
Lyons.
Councillor Price?
Lyons.
Councillor Prince?
Prince.
Councillor Richardson?
Prince.
Councillor Riddle? Councillor Smith?
Prince.
Councillor Stokel?
Lyons.
Councillor Tiplady?
Lyons.
And Councillor Young?
Lyons.
Just double counting the numbers just to make sure we get it right. So Councillor Lyons had 23 and Councillor Prince 13, so the successful councillor is Councillor Brenda Lyons, who will therefore take the allocated seat on Constitution Committee and Appointments Panel. There's no need to transfer chains, Brenda, so congratulations. I don't know if you want to say a few words to everyone.
Just to say thank you for everybody that's voted for me this evening. The first 10 months of my ceremonial mayor started 2 years ago. I didn't raise as much money as I wanted to for my charities, the 3 charities I chose, but we are where we are. We've had a terrible last 14, 15 months, and I just thank you all. Let's stay safe, keep hands, distance, and let's stay safe. Thank you.
And now we're going to ask the Mayor to sign the declaration of office. So we now move on to elect the Vice Chair of Council. I had an indication that 2 nominations have been received. They are Councillors Amy Prince and Councillor Mike Young. Can I have proposers and seconders, please?
I propose Amy Prince.
Thank you.
I'll propose Councillor Mike Young.
You got a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you. So, same again. This is how it's going to be. So, start again with Councillor Ashton.
Young.
Thank you. Councillor Boddy. Councillor Brash.
Prince.
Councillor Brown. Councillor Cassidy.
Young.
Councillor Clayton.
Prince.
Councillor Cook.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Sorry.
Councillor Cook.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Young.
Councillor Cowie.
Young.
Councillor Cranny.
Was that? Sorry, Young.
Councillor Creevy.
Prince.
Councillor Elliott.
Prince.
Councillor Faulkner.
Young.
Councillor Feeney.
Prince.
Councillor Fleming.
Young.
Councillor Groves.
Young.
Councillor Hall.
Prince.
Councillor Hargreaves.
Prince.
Councillor Harrison.
Prince.
Councillor Howson.
Prince.
Councillor Jackson.
Young.
Councillor Lindridge.
Young.
Councillor Little.
Young.
Councillor Brenda Loynes.
Young.
Councillor Denny Loynes.
Young.
Councillor Shane Moore.
Young.
Councillor David Nicholson.
Young.
Councillor Veronica Nicholson.
Young.
Councillor Picton.
Young.
Councillor Price.
Young.
Councillor Prince.
Prince.
Councillor Richardson.
Prince.
Councillor Riddle. Councillor Smith.
Prince.
Councillor Storkle.
Young.
Councillor Tiplady.
Young.
And Councillor Young. So it's 22 votes to Councillor Young and 14 to Councillor Prince. I now ask Councillor Young to sign the Deputy Ceremonial Mayor Declaration. Remember to put my mask on.
Chair, sorry for bothering you. I'm having great difficulty with the hearing. Maybe it's the acoustics in the place, I don't know. But if you just keep it clear, yeah.
Maybe it might be the sec.
If we can remember to keep the microphone switched off when we're not counting, and I'll try and lean over a bit closer if that helps, Councillor Fleming. So there are no announcements from the Chair of Council or myself this evening, so we'll move on to elect the Leader of the Council and Deputy Leader for the coming municipal year. So to elect the Leader of the Council and Deputy Leader, I have an indication that 2 councillors have been nominated. They are Councillors Harrison and Councillors Moore. Can I invite proposers and seconders, please?
I'll propose Brenda Harrison.
I'll second that.
I'll propose Councillor Moore.
I'll second
And I'll
that.
second that.
Sorry, who was the second that? Because there's 2 people.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. So we'll go through the same process. If you say Harrison or Moore, please. Councillor Ashton.
Mull.
Councillor Boddy. Councillor Boddy. Harrison or Moore. Councillor Brash.
Harrison.
Councillor Brown.
Moore.
Councillor Cassidy.
Moore.
Councillor Clayton.
Harrison.
Councillor Cook. Councillor Cowie.
Moore.
Councillor Cranny.
Moore.
Councillor Creevy.
Harrison.
Councillor Elliott.
Harrison.
Councillor Faulkner.
Moore.
Councillor Feeney.
Harrison.
Councillor Fleming.
Moore.
Councillor Groves.
Moore.
Councillor Hall.
Harrison.
Councillor Hargreaves.
Harrison.
Councillor Harrison.
Harrison.
Councillor Howson.
Harrison.
Councillor Jackson.
Moore.
Councillor Lindridge.
Moore.
Councillor Little.
Moore.
Councillor Brenda Loynes.
Moore.
Councillor Denny Loynes.
Moore.
Councillor Moore.
Moore.
Councillor David Nicholson.
Moore.
Councillor Veronica Nicholson. Councillor Picton.
Moore.
Councillor Price.
Moore.
Councillor Prince.
Harrison.
Councillor Richardson.
Harrison.
Councillor Riddle. Councillor Smith.
Moore.
Councillor Stokel.
Moore.
Councillor Tiplady.
Moore.
And Councillor Young.
Moore.
So Councillor Shane Moore is successful with 23 votes and Councillor Harrison with 13. So the successful councillor, as mentioned, is Councillor Shane Moore, and he will therefore be appointed the Chair of Finance and Policy Committee, Health and Wellbeing Board, Constitution Committee, Appointments Panel and those outside bodies set out in the tabled schedule. Now move on to the Deputy Leader post. I have been advised of 2 nominations for Deputy Leader of the Council. Those nominations are Councillor Brash and Councillor Young. Can I have proposers and seconders, please?
Can I propose Councillor Young, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
And I propose Councillor Brash.
Thank you.
And I'll second that, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. So we know the drill now. I'll just get my second set of boots. Councillor Ashton.
Young.
Councillor Boddy.
Brash.
Councillor Brash.
Brash.
Councillor Brown.
Young.
Councillor Cassidy.
Young.
Councillor Clayton.
Brash.
Councillor Cook. Councillor Cowie.
Young.
Councillor Cranny.
Young.
Councillor Creevy.
Brash.
Councillor Elliott.
Brash.
Councillor Faulkner.
Young.
Councillor Feeney.
Brash.
Councillor Fleming.
Young.
Councillor Groves.
Young.
Councillor Hall.
Brash.
Councillor Hargreaves.
Oh, Brash.
Councillor Harrison.
Brash.
Councillor Howson.
Brash.
Councillor Jackson,
Young.
Councillor Lindridge,
Young.
Councillor Little,
Abstain.
Councillor Loynes,
Young.
Brenda, sorry. Councillor Denny Loynes,
Young.
Councillor Moore,
Young.
Councillor David Nicholson,
Young.
Councillor Veronica Nicholson,
Young.
Councillor Picton,
Young.
Councillor Price,
Young.
Councillor Prince,
Brash.
Councillor Richardson,
Brash.
Councillor Riddle, Councillor Smith,
Abstain.
Councillor Stokel,
Young.
Councillor Tiplady,
Young.
and Councillor Young. So it's 21 votes for Councillor Young, 13 for Councillor Brash and 2 abstentions. The successful candidate is Councillor Young and will therefore take a place on Finance and Policy Committee. Can I draw members' attention to agenda item 7, where we will approve the programme of meetings for the coming year for council meetings, and the proposed dates are for ordinary council meetings and they are set out in section 1.2 of the report. Council is therefore requested to approve the meeting dates as set out, and also requested to approve the change of commencement time of the council to 6 o'clock. This is following the success of meetings at this time during 2020-21 and to the consequent change of Council Procedure Rule 5.1 in Part 4 of the Constitution. Is there any dissent? So council meetings will now take place at 6 o'clock. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to the chambers before long. Right, so now back to appointments of committees, forums and other bodies as required by the Constitution. I think we'll continue with the recorded votes for clarity and transparency. So for the appointments that I've received for the first one is, I'm going to do chairs first and then we'll do vice chair.
Chair, can I interject? I think
Sorry.
it'd be easier if we did show of hands because we're going to be here all night otherwise.
If we go for show of hands, I need the consent of the full floor. And if we do go for show of hands, can I ask that you keep your hands up and don't bring them down, because we need to make sure that some people have in the past voted twice accidentally. So are we all in agreement for show of hands? Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Young. And my throat's dry already. So, thoughts on chairs for each of the policy committees. I have nominations for Adult and Community-Based Services, 2 nominations, Councillor Body and Councillor Fleming. So, can I have a show of hands for Councillor Body first? And Councillor Fleming. No abstentions. Any abstentions? So we've got 25 for Councillor Fleming. Councillor Fleming, therefore, is a successful candidate. I think I'm informed that the Councillor Body will contest the Vice Chair position as well, and we'll pick that up later on in the proceedings. We move on to Neighbourhood Services Committee. 2 nominations, got Councillor Creevy and Councillor Stokel. So we'll go for Councillor Creevy first. Show of hands, please. tuned in. And thank you very much, Councillor Stokel. Wake up, sir. So 23 for Councillor Stokel and 13 for Councillor Creevy. Successful candidate is Councillor Creevy. I should have pointed out that both, Councillor Stokel, do apologise to everybody. And I should also point out that both chairs are automatically appointed to Finance and Policy. I should read my notes better, shouldn't I? The next policy chair is for Economic Growth and Regeneration. I've got 2 nominations, Councillor Brown and Councillor Hargreaves. So we go for a show of hands for Councillor Brown first. And Councillor Hargreaves. Are there any abstentions? 21 for Councillor Brown, 13 for Councillor Hargreaves and 2 abstentions. So Councillor Brown is ultimately successful sitting on Finance and Policy as well as being appointed to Economic Growth and Regeneration Policy Chair. For the next committee, which is Children's Services, I've got 2 nominations, which are Councillor Brash and Councillor Lindridge. So can I have a show of hands for Councillor Brash, please? And Councillor Lindridge. Any abstentions? None. So Councillor Lindridge got 23 votes and Councillor Brash 13. So Councillor Lindridge is successful as the policy chair for Children's Services and ultimately goes on Finance and Policy. Sorry, Bob. I'll try and bring it closer. Votes on Vice Chair for each of the policy committees now. So for Adult and Community-Based Services Committee, I've got 2 nominations, Councillor Little and Councillor Body. Can I ask for a show of hands for Councillor Little? Okay. And Councillor Body. So 25 for Councillor Little and 11 for Councillor Body. Councillor Little will take the unallocated seat, and the notification received that I understand that Councillor Body does not want to take a seat on the committee if not successful. That's what I've been informed. Is that correct? Thank you. Neighbourhood Services Committee, Vice Chair. Well, 2 nominations again for Councillor Creevy and Councillor Price. So can I see a show of hands for Councillors Creevy, please? And Councillor Price. Any abstentions? No. So we've got 24 votes for Councillor Price and 12 for Councillor Creevy. Councillor Price is a successful candidate. Move on to Economic Growth and Regeneration. Again, 2 nominations, Councillors Hargreaves and Young. So I can see a show of hands for Councillor Hargreaves. and Councillor Young. And any abstentions? And two so 21 votes for Councillor Young, 13 for Councillor Hargreaves, 2 abstentions. Councillor Young is a successful candidate. Children's Services Committee. I've been informed this evening that Councillor Fleming wants to withdraw his nomination, and therefore we only have one nomination, which is Councillor Harrison. So I don't propose we go for a vote. I'm assuming, Councillor Harrison, you're happy to take that seat. Thank you. So we now move on to the I do apologise. Council approval is requested to the non-contested seats on the policy committees as set out in the committee schedule circulated to members. We'll move on to that now. Yep. So we move now to the contested unallocated positions on policy committees. And again, we've got nominations from Councillors Hargreaves and Nicholson to sit on finance and policy. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Hargreaves, please? And Councillor Nicholson. Any abstentions? No, didn't see any. So 23 to Councillor Nicholson, 13 for Councillor Hargreaves. Councillor Nicholson is successful. I think Adult and Community-Based Services Committee, that's as is, there's no votes on that, that's fine. Neighbourhood Services candidates are nominated. I have 3. We've got Councillors Cook, Councillors Feeney and Little. So can I have a show of hands for Councillor Cook first, please? Councillor Feeney. And Councillor Little. There's one behind you as well, Sue. No, because it's a show of hands. Oh. So it's the last. So it's 21 votes for Cook, 12 for Feeney and 2 for Little. So we only had 1 seat, so Councillor Cook successful. Sorry, I do apologise, Sue. I did see John Riddle's hand behind. Economic Growth and Regeneration Committee. Candidates nominated are Councillors Cook and Councillor Feeney. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Cook? And Councillor Feeney. So Councillor Cook successful with 23 votes, Councillor Feeney had 13. We now move on to Children's Committee.
Chair.
Yes, Chair. Chair, sorry, yes, sir.
I'm also over here.
I can't see.
So it's fine, it's fine. Chair, can I be indulged just for a moment to explain what we'd like to do with this committee?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. There we go. So as things stand, I understand that I'm in position 5 due to Councillor Lindridge being elected chair. I'd like to withdraw my name and ask that Councillor Body take position 5 on the committee, which leaves a contest between Councillor Moore and Councillor Riddle. Very briefly, Chair, we are in danger tonight of excluding 2 elected members from our civic duties. There are 3 independents in this council, or I have to say, Councillor Cook, I pay tribute to you. You are remarkably influential. However, there are 2 other people that are in danger of being left off every committee. Now, I've withdrawn my name to put a councillor body in there. Can I appeal, please, to Councillor Moore to withdraw his name or lend his support to Councillor Riddle, so that we do not end the night with 2 of our councillors on absolutely no committees of this council? I think that would be a poor reflection on this body.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Given I was named personally, I will not be withdrawing my name from Children's Services Committee this year. Children's Services Committee is a committee that I hold dear to me, and it is a committee that I've served on through my entire length of time on the council. I find it astonishing that Councillor Brash seems to be able to see into the future this evening and figure out which committees the independent councillors will be able to take up moving forward. So I think we should all just settle down a little bit and let's see how the evening goes. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Point of order. Madam Chair,
Point of order?
just very, well, because I've been misrepresented. I must, no, I just want to be absolutely clear, and I genuinely could not mean this more sincerely, Councillor Moore. I mean nothing personal towards you, nothing at all. I have no issue with any of the votes that are going tonight. I've looked ahead on the agenda. I said there is a danger that we could exclude those members from the council. I don't want that to happen. That's all I meant. It's absolutely nothing at all personal to you. It's just about what I think to be the right thing to do in this circumstances. So if you took it personally, I apologise across the chamber.
Councillor Brash. Councillor Moore has got a right to reply to that. Would you like to reply?
No, it's okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's move on.
So just to clarify, Councillor Brash, did you say you're withdrawing from Children's and putting forward Councillor Body? And therefore, we've just got a vote between Councillors Moore and Riddle. Yeah? Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Moore, please? Okay. And Councillor Riddle.
Councillor Young, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I think what's been said about independent council is interesting, given the fact that we had 2 roundtable conversations.
Sorry, we haven't finished counting. Sorry.
Well, you can do that while I'm talking. It's fine. It's okay.
No,
Councillor Riddle didn't actually speak at either of those roundtables.
We've had 3.
So we've got 24 votes for Councillor Moore and 12 for Councillor Riddle. Chair, do you want to take the comments from the Deputy?
Well, the Chair gave me permission to speak, so I've already spoken.
Are you finished, Councillor Young? Okay. Carry on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Moving on to the other committees. Following Councillor Moore being appointed as leader, there is 1 seat unallocated. Uncontested nominations have been received, which the Council has requested to approve. There is 1 contested seat, and they have nominations from Councillor Creevy and Councillor Cook. So again, can I see hands, show of hands for Councillor Creevy? And Councillor Cook? Okay. 23 to Councillor Cook, 13 to Councillor Creevy. Now move on to Licensing Committee. 2 nominations have been received, Councillors Cassidy and Feeney. And I see a show of hands for Councillor Cassidy. and for Councillor Feeney. Any abstentions? So the Chair Licensing Committee will be Councillor Feeney, who received 24 votes, and Councillor Feeney 12.
No,
24 for Cassidy, 12 for Feeney, that's what I said. Sorry, it's a long night. So moved on to Vice Chair nominations. I've got Councillor Feeney and Councillor Fleming. So if I see a show of hands for Councillor Feeney, please. And for Councillor Fleming. So 24 votes for Councillor Fleming for Vice Chair and 12 for Councillor Feeney. There are no remaining contested seats, so Council is requested to approve membership of this committee. We move on to planning, Madam Chair. And for the Chair of Planning Committee, I've received 2 nominations from Councillors Elliott and Councillor Young. Can I see a show of hands for Councillors Elliott, please? Thank you. Councillor Young. Any abstentions? So 24 for Councillor Young and 12 for Councillor Elliott. Councillor Young successful in the post of Chair of Planning. Vice Chair nominations, I've got Councillor Elliott and Councillor Brown. So I can see a show of hands for Councillor Elliott, please. And for Councillor Brown. So 23 votes for Councillor Brown as Vice Chair, with Councillor Elliott getting 13 votes. So Councillor Brown successful. We have an unallocated seat. I've got nominations for Councillors Cook and Councillor Finney. So can I see a show of hands for Councillor Cook, please? And Councillor Feeney. Have we got any abstentions? One abstention. Councillor Cook 22, Councillor Feeney 13 and 1 abstention. There are no remaining contested seats. The Council is requested to approve membership of the committee. We now move on to Audit and Governance Committee. And the Chair role, I've got 2 nominations from Councillor Cook and Councillor Hall. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Cook, please? Councillor Hall. Any abstentions? So, Councillor Cook successful with 21 votes and Councillor Hall 15. There is an unallocated seat, and I've got nominations from Councillor Clayton, Hall and Riddle.
Chair.
Yes. Sorry, I'm not the Chair.
Thank you very much.
Carried away.
Sorry,
Carry on,
apologies.
Councillor
Thank you
Rush.
very much, Madam Chair. The Labour Group will withdraw the nomination of Councillor Clayton and appeal to the coalition to withdraw a name as well, so that both independent councillors can serve on one committee of our council.
Thank you, Councillor Bosch. Anybody like to reply?
I'll second that.
Who seconded that?
So
Councillor
I think Elisa Smith, councillor.
That was me.
Oh, Sue.
Councillor Little. Okay.
So there was a right to reply, no?
Well, I may reply on behalf of the coalition if needs be, Chair. Forgive me. The purpose for roundtable discussions before the AGM tonight is to have these discussions privately, though I don't mind having them publicly as well. But the issue is, when we are having them in roundtable discussions, we can address our members there and then. We can find out who might be able to step down, who may want to step down, who doesn't want to step down. And that's the whole purpose of having these discussions beforehand, Chair. It's all very well standing up and grandstanding at the AGM and making grand gestures, which we would love to go along with. However, the issue is we haven't had the opportunity to speak to our members in relation to this. It would be helpful in future roundtable discussions if members either attend if they do wish to serve on committees, or similarly, if they do attend, they speak up and make it known which committees they would like to serve on, because it does help with the process. Thank you.
Okay, totally agree. Councillor Brush, you have a right to reply.
Very, very grateful for your perseverance, Chair. Look, I understand entirely the point that you're making, Councillor Moore. It's not an unfair point. I understand that. It's perfectly reasonable. The truth is, I looked at the committees today, I went through them one by one, and I realised that this was occurring. It was clear the way the votes were going to go, the way everyone was nominated, that we would end the night, if we voted on block the way we are, with at least one member of our council not allowed to serve on a committee. And I just personally feel that that needs to be raised, because I don't think it's fair. I am very happy to move an adjournment of council if you want to go have a chat about it, but I genuinely believe, particularly as audit and governance, is about scrutinising the leadership of this council, which is the coalition, that only someone who is actually genuinely not affiliated to any party is not able to serve on that committee to scrutinise the leadership of this council. I passionately believe that you need that in any good democratic system. To exclude one person who has the same mandate as every other person here, the votes of Hartlepool people, from all committees, seems plainly wrong. We can do something about it. We should do something about it.
Councillor Little.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For a person who's independent who went to the round table, it is really, really confusing. Some people are on the wrong page when you're going through the agenda, and it really, really does get confusing. And we have to point out several times to everybody what page, what item, and where we're at. So I do agree with you for once. Not very often you get hear me say that again.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just think on the point that you've made there, Councillor Little, I think there's always an opportunity to ask the questions, and I think that's always offered. I think if there's a councillor who is independent who wants to put themselves forward for a council, that is the time to do it, for a committee, sorry, and that opportunity was given twice, 2 separate meetings. So yes, it can be a bit confusing, but there's always the opportunity to ask questions, and everybody's quite flexible in that respect. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hargreaves next.
Thank you, Chair. There are some people in this room that will remember that once upon a time I found myself on the opposite side of the bench that I am now. And I too found myself as an independent, without any home, without any committee. I think there were scrutiny committees and cabinet at the time, and not policy committees. And it is incredibly frustrating as somebody who is elected by the people to try and serve those people, to find yourself without the power to be able to even serve those individuals who put you there. So there is a broader point. It's not necessarily about the process of the round tables, and it's not necessarily about the process of party politics in terms of who we vote for. There are people out there in Hartlepool who put these independent people to serve and they want them to be able to serve. And for us to freeze them out completely seems a bit of a dereliction of our duty, which we've all talked about publicly, which is about doing the best for this town and for about us working together cooperatively to put the best people in those positions to help run and make this town the town that it can be. So, you know, let's put all that aside and let's give some of the independent voices, the true independent voices, the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. Councillor Moore, do you want to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I completely get where people are coming from, and I sympathise completely. If the Labour group feels so passionately about allowing other independent councillors to serve and to make sure that they're represented, I would remind Council and the Labour group that they have 2 seats on the Audit and Governance Committee, that they could always relinquish a second one and give it to the people that they want to see represented on that committee.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I take your point, Councillor Moore, but in fact, if we gave up those seats, we've tried to spread ourselves across the various committees, and so that would be quite unfair on the people who are already there because they wouldn't have anything else. I also would like to echo what has been said about the roundtable meetings in terms of it should have all been done there. Well, it often can't be. And I think Councillor Little was quite right in that sometimes you think about things and look at things a little bit later. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with having this discussion now. Obviously, we want most of the things in place, but this is one point that we're bringing, and it's an extremely good point. And I think Councillor Hargreaves has made that point extremely well for the sake of the town. And I think we should be looking at that rather than counting our numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Miller? Yeah, sorry.
How did you get us two mixed up? I'd like to propose an adjournment while we discuss this further, if that's okay, Madam Mayor. Is there a seconder?
Seconded. Seconded.
So can we have agree a timetable for that? So 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes. Okay. Oh, sorry. Councillor Lindridge.
No, he actually came in.
Could you sit down, please, a minute? Councillor Lindridge wants to speak. Councillor Lindridge. It's on. It's on. Councillor Lindridge.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think this is about...
Can I ask everyone to remain seated, please? Councillor Fleming.
Right, thanks. This is about democracy. As far as I'm concerned, right, you're either elected to a committee or you're not. There's an unelected member to a panel. You've got the opportunity to go to those meetings as a non-elected member to that panel, and you can voice your opinions on that. You can lobby individual councillors. And I'd like to think if I'm elected to a particular position, then my integrity is challenged if I'm not listening to every councillor. And if you've got a good point to put across, I would listen to that. So if people are coming to me in terms of if I'm on children's services, I'd be willing to listen to all the experienced councillors to pass that information on and then discuss that with our directors. So as far as I'm concerned, I think you're grasping at straws. That's the way it is. Democracy is what it is. Yeah. You should accept that. Thanks, Chair.
We'll have a 10-minute adjournment. Councillor Little.
I totally disagree with what you've just said there, Councillor Lindridge. When you're in a committee, most of the decisions in this council is made at committee level. As me being an independent, and I've been an independent for 3 years now, I have a vote. If I'm a councillor that's not elected to that committee, I'm not allowed to vote, but it doesn't stop me from going to that committee and putting my point of view across. The vote for an independent person is one of the most important things that I represent my residents for, so I totally disagree with what you said there.
Thank you. Okay, 10 minutes adjournment. Okay, while we discuss this.
Yeah, he's all right. Okay.
Thank you, members. We're going to go straight to the vote, okay? Pass you over to Denise.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have one allocated seat for Audit and Governance Committee, and that is for, I've got two nominations, Councillor Hall and Councillor Riddle. Can I have a show of hands for Councillor Hall, please? And a show of hands for Councillor Riddle. Any abstentions? So Councillor Riddle gets the unallocated seat with 23 votes and Councillor Hall 13. There are no remaining contested seats. The Council is requested to approve membership of this committee, including the Vice Chair of Committee, which was only one nomination, that was Councillor Carl Richardson. Council is also recommended to approve the appointments of the independent persons as detailed in the report on page 3. Now move on to Constitution Committee. The Leader and Chair of Council agreed earlier in the meeting take those seats. There are no contested seats, so if Council is requested to approve membership of that committee. Moving on to Appointments Panel. Leader and Chair of Council agreed earlier in the meeting, therefore there are two unallocated seats. For seat 1, I have 5 nominations. And to do this, we will have to do individual votes for each seat. So whilst there's 2 seats, we'll do one at a time. So I've got Councillors Cook, Creevy, Little, Prince and Young. So can I see a show of hands for Councillor Cook, please? Sorry.
I just wanted to withdraw.
Okay, thanks, Sue. So show of hands for Councillor Cook, please. Show of hands for Councillor Creevy. Show of hands for Councillor Prince. And show of hands for Councillor Young. Councillor Young. No, I'm doing one seat first, and I'll move on to whoever the successful candidate will be removed, and then we'll go on to the second seat, as per the Constitution. So, can I have the results? I feel like it's Eurovision Song Contest. So was there any votes for Councillor Young? Because we've got 36 votes. So you must have voted twice, Mike. I voted twice. All right, okay. So.
Been exam long enough.
So the successful candidate is. So Councillor Cook successful for that one allocated seat with 21 votes. We'll now move on to the second seat. So we've got Councillors Creevy, Councillor Prince and Councillor Young. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Creevy, please? Show of hands for Councillor Prince. And a show of hands for Councillor Young. Any abstentions? Councillor Young successful with how many votes? 21 votes. The council has also requested to approve the non-contested seats for the committee. That was easy, wasn't it? We're now moving on to outside bodies. Okay. Council approval is requested to these outside bodies where there are no contested seats as set out in the report. Moving onto the contested outside body appointments. The first one being the Hartlepool and District Sports Council, which is item number 13 on page 5 of your papers, if you bearing in mind what Councillor Little was saying earlier, there's so many papers. So there are 3 seats available, and I have 5 nominations. We'll do the same as what we've just done with appointments panel. So I've got Councillors Little, Jackson, Hargreaves, Price and Riddle. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Little? Show of hands for Councillor Jackson. Robbie, you voting twice? Show of hands for Councillor Hargreaves. Show of hands for Councillor Price. And show of hands for Councillor Riddle. So Councillor Little was successful for the first seat, so we'll now move on to the second seat. So show of hands for Councillor Jackson. Can you keep your hands up, please? Thank you. We'll move on to Councillor Hargreaves. Councillor Price. Any votes? And so have you voted twice there, Tim? Yeah, that was right. And Councillor Riddle. So I think 22 votes. Councillor Jackson gets the second seat. So move on to the third seat. Councillor Hargreaves, show of hands, please. Councillor Price. Councillor Riddle. Councillor Price gets the third seat with 21 votes. Thank you. Now move on to the Hartlepool Power Station Community Liaison Committee. There is 1 seat. We have 2 nominations, which are Councillor Brash and Councillor Jackson.
Chair, in the sense of speeding things up, I'll withdraw.
You withdrawn.
Councillor Jackson is successful. Moving on to the Local Government Association, we've got 1 seat. Agreed. The leader, as we know, is Shane Moore, so he takes a seat. We've then got a second seat, which is contested with Councillors Brash and Stokel. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Brash? And Councillor Stokel. Councillor Stokel successful with 23 votes, Councillor Brash 12. I don't know if everyone's noticed, but Councillor Hall's left the meeting, so we're now down to 35 councillors.
Chair, just on the next nomination before you skip over it, the Local Government Association Coastal Special Interest Group, the Labour Group would like to change its nomination from Councillor Harrison to Brash.
Okay. Right, thank you. But that's noted. Thank you, Chair.
Denise, what page are you on?
What page again on the agenda? It's in the table, Brenda. Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. So move on to Dorantes Valley Airport Board. There is one seat. We've got 2 nominations. We've got Councillor Brenda Loynes and Councillor Harrison. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Loynes? And Councillor Harrison. Councillor Loynes is successful with 22 votes. Now I've got Dorantes Valley Airport Consultative Committee. There is one seat. We've got 2 nominations. We've got Councillors Cook and Clayton. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Cook? And Councillor Clayton. Councillor Cook successful with 23 votes. Now moving on to the River Tease Port Health Authority. There are 2 seats available, but I'll do 1 seat at a time. We've got 3 nominations, Councillors Cook, Creevy and Young. Can I see a show of hands for Councillor Cook? And a show of hands for Councillor Creevy. And for Councillor Young. So 23 votes for Councillor Cook is successful. The Council is requested to appoint Councillor Moore as Executive Member on the North East Regional Employers Organisation.
What happened to the second seat, Denise?
Sorry. Did I? Sorry. You're right. Do apologise. Thanks, Mike. So, Councillor Cook successful, so we'll then move on to the vote again for Councillor Young and Creevy. So, Councillor Creevy, show of hands, please. Can I ask for mobile phones to be switched off, please? And Councillor Young. Councillor Young successful at second seat with 21 votes, 14 for Councillor Creevy. Now move on to the North East Regional Employers Organisation, and Council is requested to appoint Councillor Moore as the Executive Member. Is there any dissent? That concludes the contested outside body positions. I dread to ask this question, but are there any nominations for any other vacancies set out in the schedule? Members are aware that they can bring them forward at any time. So I'll now hand back over to the Chair to close the meeting.
Thank you, members, for this evening. Thank you once again for voting for me. I hope I'll see the term of office out. And good luck to everybody. Stay safe, and we'll meet soon, hopefully, back in the chamber. Thank you.
Can I just remind, sorry. Just as you leave the building, just to observe social distancing. I know I'm becoming like a cracked record or a stuck record, but it's really important. Thank you.